So I want to give you an update on the US-China trade war. And effectively today, Donald Trump confirmed that we are living in a South Park timeline. Yes, you heard that correct, South Park timeline. Let me explain. So what does China have that the USA needs? Rare earth materials, right? Defense companies, tech companies, et cetera. So this is actually a big deal for the US economy. And so what does USA do to, I guess, hit back if we want to have this trade war? Trump then says, okay, I'm going to attack cooking oil. Yes, you heard that correctly, cooking oil. That's what we're talking about today. Trump threatens China cooking oil trade as retaliation for soybean boycott. Have a listen to Bloomberg talk about it.
Well, the S&P 500 turned lower in the final hour of the trade after, you guessed it, a flare-up in the trade war with China. President Trump threatening to stop trade in cooking oil with China in a Truth Social post, a retaliatory move after Beijing is continuing to refuse to buy American soybeans. Joining us now is Balance of Power co-host Joe Matthews. So, Joe, it feels like a little bit we're back in an environment where there's so much headline ping pong when it comes to what is the state of play with trade negotiations with China.
Yeah, it's been kind of a day-to-day up and down here, with the president being accused of pulling another taco over the weekend following his very aggressive post on Truth Social on Friday, sent the markets in a tizzy, then the relief rally yesterday, and yes, today. I'm guessing you didn't have cooking oil on the menu for the program, but that's what the president's talking about on Truth Social, and this post helped to send the markets lower.
And that was definitely not on my bingo card this year, cooking oil. And the first thing that I thought of when I heard this, I was just like, I don't think the U.S. or Trump or these people have any idea about anything with China. And their point of view is like, hey, I went to a Chinese food down in my local, neighborhood, and that's all the Chinese people that I know. I'm going to hit them where it hurts, the cooking oil. I mean, seriously, I actually think they are that dumb. It is frankly sad. This is the tweet from Trump. This is what he says. He says, I believe that China purposely not buying our soybeans and causing difficulty for our soybean farmers is an economically hostile act. Okay, that's coming from Trump. We are considering terminating business with China having to do with cooking oil. Seriously, I really think that our, international relations is ruled by people who have no experience at all. And their only experience, I guess, with people from another country, what they think is going down to, the restaurant and say, oh, well, I guess no sweet and sour chicken business for you. It's so stupid, right? This is literally what we're talking about. We're talking about cooking oil. Okay, so we are considering terminating business with China having to do with cooking oil and other elements of trade as retribution. As an example, we can easily produce cooking oil ourselves. We don't need to purchase it from China. Okay, so I guess we're in a cooking oil war now. Thank you, Trump. Then Scott Bessent, and this is all real, they want to pull everybody else down with them. So he's attacking China. And whenever they do these kind of statements, I always feel like they're talking about themselves. I mean, whenever I tune into the Trump news, it's like, do you purposely want to destroy everything? This is the quote from Scott. This is our Treasury Secretary. This is a sign of how weak their economy is, right? So he's talking about China, and they're always trying to make the case that the USA is so strong. We got this, cooking oil or whatever. We're talking about cooking oil today. And, in this trade war, you're going to suffer more China than the USA, right? So they always have to convince all the Americans that China's such a weak country and USA is so strong, right? So this is a sign of how weak their economy is, and they want to pull everybody else down with them. Maybe there is some Leninist business model where hurting your customers is a good idea, but they are the largest supplier to the world. If they want to slow down global economy, they will be hurt the most. And so the Bessent and Trump, they try to make the case to the American people that China has no one else to ever sell things to, that it's only America. And the way that they act, the Trump people, is like they're that abusive lover that's like, if you leave me, you can't find anyone else, right? I'm the only one here. If you leave me, you can't trade with anyone. And you know it's not true, right? I mean, China can trade with all sorts of countries out there. There's lots of other countries in the world other than USA. But again, if you feel your administration, this is the Americans, with a bunch of incompetent lackeys, then their only experience with China is like, hey, I went down to the Chinese restaurant. They really need that cooking oil. Let's threaten them with that. Good luck. We're still talking about the 100% tariff. They had Greer on TV today talking about that. If you know who Greer is, he's like our head trade rep. And I never see the guy. He's just like this squirrely dude. And I just don't feel confident watching him. And that's how it is. And then you got Trump bragging about how awesome he is with the friendship with China. Listen to this.
We have to be careful with China. Look, I have a great relationship with President Xi, but sometimes it gets testy because China likes to take advantage of people, and they can't take advantage of us. But we have a fair relationship with China, and I think it'll be fine. And if it's not, that's okay too. You have to do and go where the punches are thrown. You got to put up the blocks. We have a lot of punches being thrown, and we've been very successful.
So like I said, I guess according to Trump, throw the punches, put up the blocks, and I guess we're doing cooking oil. That's our strategy. Things aren't looking so great, though, for the Republicans as they're now infighting. Marjorie Taylor Greene is calling out her Republican cohort. Says here, Marjorie Taylor Greene, tearing into her own party, says GOP men, that's Republicans, in Congress are weak. There's a lot of weak Republican men, and they're more afraid of strong Republican women. Now, when Trump talks about trade wars, stuff like that, the market, of course, then takes a dive because we're all concerned about, is anyone going to trade at all? And it just slows down everything. Now, Trump's point of view is that the American has a strong economy. We have all these consumers. We need to buy lots of Chinese stuff, and therefore that's the leverage along with cooking oil. But I do want to show you this because I think people who have been following the American economy kind of know what's going on. There's a lot of signals for recession, and actually the Washington Post put together some really funny signals to look out for because essentially we're not getting government data as the government is shut down. So we don't know the official government data from jobs, but we do have other data. So for example, and it's actually interesting, some of these indicators, cardboard production, or the word they use here is container board production. This is it's down 5%. This would sort of indicate, how much packages are moving around, et cetera. Because you're looking like how strong is the U.S. economy? Or here's another one. When you don't have a lot of money, I guess Americans buy more hamburger helper, for about 14%. I know it's funny when you look at some of these indicators. And it signals, though, right? You're essentially trading down from more premium food, going for the more cheaper food. Or here's another example of showing where the U.S. economy is at. Heavy truck sales fell in August, down 14.6%. So again, I'm showing you these kind of numbers because we don't have official government numbers. The government is shut down, and Trump tries to always make the case how strong USA is, et cetera. But there's a lot of indicators out there that show otherwise. Here's another one. 39.5% up. What is that? Visits through thrift stores soared in the second quarter, right? And this is comparing back to back in 2019, so 6 years ago. And then you had Federal Chair Jerome Powell saying the Fed has, quote, no risk-free path as unemployment, inflation rise. Now, I know all the talk has been about inflation for a while, but I think, in my opinion, the most important thing, well, they're equally important. I'll say they're equally important, but I think the jobs market is going to be what's going to be on everyone's mind. Because yes, prices are high, but if you don't have a job, then it's just like, if you don't have a job, no money coming in, and the price of eggs, it doesn't matter what it is, right? It could be $8, it could be $9, but you're just like, I don't have any money anyway, so it's all too expensive. And that's why I mentioned the job thing. This is actually the quote from Powell. He says, while official employment data for September are delayed, again, we're not getting any numbers, available evidence suggests that both layoffs and hiring remain low. So there's a freeze in the job market. And that both households' perceptions of job availability and firms' perceptions of hiring difficulty continue their downward trajectories. And I hear it from people in the community. I see it in the news. Things are bad out there. And then when you check out on the Republicans, what they're talking about, they're actually talking about naked people. For reals, have a listen to this.
Is the abuse of law enforcement by radical leftist activists. Most recently, the most threatening thing I've seen yet was the naked bicyclers in Portland who were protesting ICE down there. It's getting really ugly. They have attacked, physically assaulted officers. People have been arrested, okay? This is serious business. And ICE and the
So I guess according to Republicans, while people are facing recession risk, we have to worry about naked bicyclists. That's according to them. But I do want to point out something because there's a couple studies that came out recently that really illustrate what's wrong with the USA and what's going on. And a lot of people who are not American always ask, like, how could anyone vote for Trump? So let me show you a couple things. And this is going to be a sensitive topic. I just want to warn you ahead of time. But this is real, and I want to tell you the truth also. In reading, the nation's students are still stuck in a pandemic slump. So basically, our schools are having a tough time. That's basically what it boils down to say it in the nicest way possible. New 2025 testing data shows 3rd through 8th grade graders scored far below 2019 levels in reading. In math, some grades have made gains, but all are lagging compared to before the pandemic. So if you think things are going to get better in USA after Trump leaves, I'll just say this. Definitely you need Trump administration out. But one of the things that we're having a trouble with, basically in USA, is just our education levels are so low. If you look at much of the media landscape, be it on the Republican side or even on the left side, I'm being honest with you guys, because I see what's going on YouTube. And I tell you all the time, most stuff on social media is dumb. I just tell you the truth on that stuff. And I know people don't like to hear it, but let me just put it in the simplest terms. The most popular videos, say on the left side that people like to watch, is basically rage entertainment, right? People just, Donald Trump is trash. I hate Donald Trump, right? That kind of stuff. And people like to watch that stuff. That's like the most popular stuff. It's ridiculous. And as it turns out, basically this whole sort of world makes people dumb, for real. This is actually, it just came out. Kids who use social media score lower on reading tests and memory tests. And basically, the more exposure you got to this kind of stuff, the more dumb you are. Just put it in the most basic terms. So let me read the description of it. It says, preteens using increasing amounts of social media perform poor in reading, vocabulary, and memory tests in early adolescence compared with those who use no or little social media. So basically, hanging out on Elon Musk's platform all day makes you dumb. That's the best way to put it. People probably aren't doing their homework or aren't doing something more enlightening. They're just hanging out, looking at memes, telling jokes or whatever. And you see it in the political discourse as well, right? Whatever stupid thing Trump tweets out, and then you got the other side, Gavin Newsom tweets out stupid stuff, and we're basically all trolling each other. And it's frustrating, because I tell you the truth on this stuff, and I know it's uncomfortable, but most people, the stuff that you guys watch, the most popular videos are people screaming and yelling. That's the most popular videos. People screaming and yelling that they love Trump, or people screaming and yelling that they hate Trump, or whatever. But basically, it's a bunch of Americans screaming and yelling. And as I talked about in the last video, mass shootings are up. I think it was like 337 mass shootings. And we're not at the end of the year. That's basically, it's like more than one a day. That's USA. It's crazy. And then so this is how they control people. They just keep you dumb. And so I guess we're giving awards to Charlie Kirk, and anyone who watched any of the Charlie Kirk programming, you just see it's just a bunch of people fighting. That's all it was. He's the guy, he's a college dropout. So he's a college dropout. He goes to college campuses and argues with college kids. That was his whole show. And I guess that deserves a Medal of Freedom, according to them. And if you criticize anything with Charlie Kirk, they'll revoke your visa. This just came out today. State Department revokes visas over Charlie Kirk comments. And over on their social media page, right? This is if you hang out the Department of State social media, they were posting some of these comments against Charlie Kirk. So someone, I guess, from Argentina was saying Kirk was racist, xenophobic, a misogynist, right? Or just another person, this was from South Africa, saying Kirk was racist, saying he called them the trailer trash or Neanderthals. I mean, you can literally read through all this stuff. But you get your visa revoked over this stuff. So, it's crazy that any of this stuff is even happening at all. It's like if I went say back in time and say, okay, our future and with technology, it's going to be a bunch of memes and trolling, and there's going to be a bunch of people worshiping, say, someone like Elon Musk who's an addict, or we're going to have a president who was a social media reality TV star, and that's going to be the president, and then our market's going to go up and down based on whether or not we're fighting over cooking oil. Like, can you imagine trying to explain that to people, or even go in the future and trying to explain this whole era to your grandkids? Who knows? I mean, the future could go one or two ways. Like, we keep going down this path, right? Down this crazed, Donald Trump part 5, and Eric Trump will be president after that or whatever. You never know. You never know. And I guess if you keep people dumb enough, long enough, that's what you get. So it's sorry to be a little bit mean this episode. It's just I feel really, really frustrated when I see all this stuff going on. And this whole cooking oil is just sort of an example of the South Park timeline. So that's my thoughts on this. I'd like to hear your comments, and I'll catch you all in the next video.